Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we do some rainy day gardening. So let's go. We finally have rain. We haven't had it for a long time, so I'm very thankful for the amount of rain that we're getting. But that's not going to stop me. There's still plenty to be done in the garden, and I'm very excited about today's project. Today we're going to be working in my front yard in what I call my bay window flower bed. Out there I have a bunch of Montauk Daisies, and this is a plant that many people have never heard of. It's a daisy, a white daisy that's very pretty, but it blooms in the late summer, early fall months. This rugged, late season perennial almost acts like a little shrub. In fact, when I planted it out there, I didn't know that it acted like a shrub. It's a little too big for the space that it's in. So on a different date, we're actually going to be digging up, dividing, and moving that around in other areas of my yard. But today's video is going to focus on the normal spring maintenance that needs to be done with this type of daisy. Many people complain about it flopping over, and it does flop over if you don't give it the proper maintenance and care that it needs. First of all, Montauk Daisy needs full sun. In other words, if you put it in more of a shady area, it's apt to flop over. I mentioned that they bloom in the late season, so in the northern hemisphere, they actually bloom September through October, all the way up until our first frost. They produce 3-inch white flowers with a yellow center, and they look very much like a Shasta daisy. So here's my most important tip. Pruning is vital. If you don't prune your plant back, it's going to look very unsightly and it's going to flop over. There are two critical times to prune your plant. One is right now, which is early spring. As soon as you see new growth appearing, you want to cut back your Montauk Daisy about 6 to 12 inches above the ground. But that's not the only time you want to prune back your Montauk Daisy. You want to prune it back one more time around the 4th of July. If you prune it back during the first week of July, that will encourage it to be bushier and have a stronger base to it. And that simply means it's less likely to flop over for you. Now, unlike a lot of other perennials that you can cut back in the winter time, when it comes to my Montauk Daisy, I don't like to cut it back in the winter. The reason is the top growth actually protects the crown or the base of the plant. Once you've cut back your plant, you can actually take those cuttings and propagate your plant. In today's video, I'm not going to be showing you that process because I already made a video that shows how to propagate it. What I'll do is put a link to some of the videos down in the description below, and I'll also put a link up above. All I'm going to be doing today is pruning it back with you, and then I'm going to take the cuttings, put them in a vase of water, and then later on today, I'm going to go ahead and stick my cuttings in potting soil so I can propagate it. If you have this plant or you want to get this plant, just know that you need to make sure that the soil is well draining. In fact, the plant will thrive in a sandy or gravelly soil. And believe it or not, it's actually quite salt tolerant, which makes it an ideal plant if you live near the coast. This is a plant that I don't like to fertilize. I just leave it alone, let it do its thing. If I give it too much nitrogen or too much fertilizer, that's yet another reason why my plant is going to flop over. So those are the main things I wanted to share about the Montauk Daisy. Let's go ahead and start cutting it back. Here we are at my bay window flower bed. You can see right here is what I was talking about. It is quite large for this space, a little too large for my liking. Something like this I feel should be towards the middle or the back of a flower border. So what I'm thinking is, for today, like I mentioned, we're just going to be cutting it back 6 inches from the ground. And then on a different day, I can bring you along. We're going to be digging them up and we're going to be moving them to other areas of my garden that also get full sun. And if I want, I can still keep one piece in here, but I would much rather move it towards the back of the bed. I can see at the base where I made my cuts last year. So I want to keep some of this structure at the base intact. It's almost like a hydrangea. You don't want to cut it all the way down to the ground because then the plant will be very floppy. So you want to cut up a little bit higher than where you made your cuts last year. I'm going to be using my hand pruners and I'm just going to make cuts. I'm not going to worry too much about where I'm making the cuts because eventually wherever I'm making my cuts, it's going to branch out. Sometimes when we buy our plants, I don't know about you, but I don't always read the labels and I just look at something pretty, I put it in my landscape. And then I learn, nope, it's not in the right place. And that's exactly what happened with this. I have a backyard plant nursery where I sell plants. This will be a very popular plant for me to be able to sell. In fact, I have a lot more of this plant down in my plant nursery. So another thing that I'm going to do is go down to my plant nursery and do the same type of maintenance. Just cut everything back. I have a bucket nearby. I can just take the cuttings and put them in there. What I'll eventually do is just put some water in here, and then I can stick the cuttings in soil later on. I had left this plant in my landscape because I wanted to make this video so I could show you my process for cutting it back. Many of you have this plant in your landscape and you've also wondered what the process is, what do I do with it? So I just wanted to make this quick little update on how I'm taming the beast and cutting it back. And also I thought it was good to share this plant with you because oftentimes we don't have a lot of color in our late summer, early fall garden. And even though this plant might have a little bit of a stink to it, I can smell it right now, it is just so pretty when I don't have a whole lot of color happening in my late summer garden. It's important to not wait too long midsummer to cut this back when you do your second cutting of it. So I would say 4th of July for the Northern Hemisphere is as late as you really want to go, because what might happen is you might not end up getting any blooms. And you want to make sure you're allowing your plant to have enough time to create the buds so it can bloom for you. As I'm cutting it back and I'm sticking the cuttings in this bucket, I'm making sure I know which way is up. And that's very important because if I take the cuttings and stick them upside down, they're not going to do anything for me. I could have done this job a few weeks ago, but that's okay. It's not too late. It's better now than never. When it comes to digging it, dividing it, and moving it, I definitely want to do that soon. I don't want to wait until the heat of summer to be doing that job. As I'm cutting, I just wanted to show you. So like this guy right here, you can see right in the center where my finger is, that's where I made last year's cut. So I don't want to cut it all the way down to the bottom. I want this nice sturdy piece to be here. It will support this stem so that the stem doesn't flop over because those flowers are quite large when they do bloom. So I want to cut either right here or right there so that I'm keeping this bottom part intact. And then we have another piece coming off of it on this side. Again, I'm just going to cut right here. I think the thumbnail should say satisfying because this project is so far so satisfying. I still have a few more to cut over here, but again, look how messy that looks, how tall they are. So once I cut these back and we do a little bit of cleanup at the base, this definitely will be so satisfying. If you have Montauk Daisy, don't feel like you have to save all your cuttings. You can always take them and just put them in your compost pile. Oftentimes, I just let the cuttings sit in water, sometimes even up to a week or two. As long as I'm changing the water every 1 to 2 days, they're fine. And I'm just going to keep them in a shady area where they can just sit and rest. Now, I didn't worry about where I took my cuts. If you wanted to, you could always cut above a leaf node. I also didn't worry about whether branches were crossing. You could definitely take the time and do a really decent pruning job if you wanted to. My main concern was just to get everything cut back to a nice height. And I was surprised I was able to get this many cuttings, which is just fabulous. Part 1 of this satisfying project is complete. So let's just keep going with the theme. I could not get to all the leaves that were in here because of all the top growth that was there. But now that we've cut back the Montauk Daisy, I can come in here and remove all of the leaf litter that's at the base of these plants. And we have a total of 4 plants. So let's get at it. When I first got the Montauk Daisy, I didn't believe the whole, I'm supposed to cut it back 6 to 12 inches. I thought for sure I was supposed to cut it all the way down to the ground. That's part of the reason why you see a ton of growth at the bottom, but then you also see sections where it's branching off. I learned over time the right thing to do when I saw that my plant was flopping over. And that's why on my channel I really try to teach from what I've learned, because a lot of times that's how we learn as gardeners, is from experience. There are a lot of other pretty things in this flower bed that I want to just mention and talk about. So you first might be noticing the beautiful yellow flower. It almost looks like a dandelion, but no, it's not a dandelion. It is one of the very first spring blooming flowers in my garden that's not a bulb. It's called leopard's bane or Doronicum. I love it because it basically looks like a little yellow daisy. I love how it pairs well with the purple color of the grape hyacinth or muscari. They basically complement each other really nicely, and I'd love to copy that pattern throughout my yard. I'm always looking around my yard, spring, summer, through the fall, and seeing where are there gaps of color, or where are there plants that could possibly complement each other. even if they're not together in my garden, but I see that they're blooming at the same time. And that's exactly why I paired the yellow with the purple. I originally only had the leopard's bane in this flower bed, but then in a different area of my garden, I had the purple of the muscari, and I thought, ooh, I like how they look. They're both blooming together at the same time. They're just not near each other. And oftentimes that's what I do. I walk around my yard and I just get inspiration from my own garden. And then I like to share those ideas and inspiration with all of you. This plant right here is beautiful. It's a type of veronica or speedwell, and it's called royal candles. I love it because it's a nice tall plant, and the pollinators go crazy over that plant. I know that there are a lot of different veronica or speedwell out there, but I have to say of the ones I've seen, this one is probably my favorite. So because of that, I have divided and moved this plant all around my yard. This plant that you see here that's pushing out leafy growth at the bottom is a beautiful type of spirea. Now, I don't know the kind of spirea that it is. It has pink flowers on it. Just like many plants in my yard, I got a very small piece of it from my mother-in-law's home, and then over time I've just divided it and moved it around this flower bed. So I probably have, I would say 8 or 10 of these small little spirea around this flower bed. Since we're coming in and we're doing this cleanup, I have a lot of ideas on how I want to transform this flower bed. Just like any other flower bed, this bed is always work in progress, which makes it so exciting. It's never boring. I think change is good when it comes to gardening. Editing our gardens is half the fun. I often would come into this garden bed with my leaf blower in the fall, even in the spring, to blow the leaves out. But when it comes to getting into this area here, it was always very tricky. So since we've cut it back now, it's important that I remove all these leaves, because if I don't do that, they're on a windy day, once things dry out, they're just gonna blow everywhere. So I'd rather just come in and hand pick them out. Let me know in the comments if you have Montauk Daisy and what has been your experience with it. I'm hoping that if you're new to the plant, that this video has helped you a little bit, just to know how to care for the plant. Or maybe you don't have this plant and you're noticing in your garden during the late summer, early fall that things are quieting down. Many times when people visit my garden, they say, oh, I already have daisy. I don't need this daisy. But what I tell them is, this is not just a regular Shasta daisy. Shasta daisies usually bloom in the summertime. I have an oxeye daisy that blooms earlier, I would say late spring, early summer. Then the Shasta daisies come in. And then after the Shasta daisies go by, these guys bloom. Okay, friends, it's starting to rain, so I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to finish cleaning up the leaves. There's actually something very peaceful about the garden when it's raining. I can't wait for us to tackle the pond when the time comes, but look how saturated everything looks. I just love it. And look at the grape hyacinth. These nice big clumps of grape hyacinth are where I divided from, just to add those additional clumps in the bay window flower bed. They're still very small, but patience. I'm always trying to teach patience in the garden. That's how I build my own garden spaces, is by dividing plants over time. They might start as small clumps, but eventually they become a nice big clump. And I just enjoy the process along the way. The final thing I want to do, just because I had it in my mind to do it, I had 2 main things I wanted to do today. We tackled the first one, which was taming the beast of the Montauk Daisy. Again, there were 4 of them right there. I'm definitely going to be coming in soon and digging them up. I'll probably pot them up and think a little bit about where I'm going to place them, because I don't want to rush the process. The final thing that I want to do for this project today, it's a very simple thing. It's an Annabelle Hydrangea that I have. And all I want to do is just cut it back a little bit, because certain hydrangeas, like the Annabelle Hydrangea, should be cut back about 30 to 50%. Not too much, but just enough. And this is still a very small Annabelle Hydrangea that I have here. But when it blooms, it's so beautiful. And to support those big, huge blooms, it is important to cut it. Just like the Montauk Daisy, I don't want to cut it all the way down. I need that base, that structure at the bottom, to support the big blooms. So I'm going to keep you here covered under the porch, and I'm going to go out in the rain and just do a little bit of a cut back on my Annabelle Hydrangea. There are so many people on YouTube that have videos on cutting back hydrangeas, how far to cut them back, which ones to cut back, which ones not to cut back. So I'm not going to be making videos this season having to do with any of that. I can always pop up on the screen just some basic information you need to know when it comes to cutting back your hydrangeas. All I know is that there are certain types that you want to cut back, there are certain types that you don't. And the biggest thing that I've learned over time is when you do cut back a hydrangea, you don't want to cut it back all the way down because you need that base, that bottom part, to support the top part of your hydrangea. And then there are certain hydrangeas like the macrophylla that you don't want to cut back this time of year, which for me is springtime. I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to hydrangeas. I'm always learning just like anyone else, but I also learn from my mistakes. And one mistake that I made in the past was not cutting back the hydrangeas at all. Another mistake I've made in the past is cutting them back too hard. There are definitely pieces at the bottom that have just broken over time from the winter, from the snow. So I'm just coming in and I'm cleaning that up. I'll also take these cuttings and I'm going to stick them in potting mix and put them in the shade, just like I'm going to with my cuttings from my Montauk Daisy. It's a great time of year to propagate your plant from cuttings. I do have videos on my channel on how to propagate hydrangeas from hardwood cuttings. Definitely check them out. I can put a link to the video down below. The process is very similar, except we're doing the cuttings now as the leaves are starting to appear. It's inevitable. We do get very heavy snow, and if I wanted to, I could always somehow protect or cover my hydrangeas, but I haven't. But this one in particular seems to really get affected each year by the heavy snow load. It might be worthwhile for me to cover it and protect it before the snow arrives. I'm just looking it over, and I think I'm going to take, there's a tall piece here, I'm going to take that one out. But otherwise, I would say this hydrangea looks pretty good. For my hydrangeas, I like to sprinkle hollytone. I use it on a number of different plants, in fact. And here's a nice list of all the plants you can use your hollytone on. You can always pause the screen and look it over. I usually buy a bag like this from Ocean State Job Lot. I found the prices to be decent there, but I know the store is not everywhere. I've also bought it on Amazon before. I'll put a link to my Amazon storefront if you want to check it out. It's raining. It's a perfect day for me to be giving fertilizer. I don't measure it out. It's an organic fertilizer, so usually it's not very harmful if I put a little too much extra. And at the base of this hydrangea are some Spanish bluebells. They're going to get a little bit of fertilizer too, so it's not going to hurt them. And I'm just putting the fertilizer at the drip line of my hydrangea. I'm not trying to put it directly at the base of it. If it wasn't raining today, I could scratch in the fertilizer, but because it's raining, the fertilizer will go right into the ground. Well, friends, every part of that project was so satisfying for me. I'm so glad we got that done. Eventually, I'm going to take those cuttings, I'm going to get them all potted up so I get more free plants. The Montauk Daisy will have to get cut back one more time around early July. But before I do that early July cutback, I'll be digging up and either moving or potting up those Montauk Daisy. And then there's so much work to be done in the front yard, in the bay window flower bed, the front walkway bed, as well as in my pond. So be sure to check out those videos as I release them over the next number of weeks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.